Peace. Welcome back.
Hey.
Secret House Against, hip-hop album reviews, Tokyo-based, this and this. It's me and Jet here today, just the both of us. We've got a few reviews for you in store. Today we are, first album we're going to talk about is...
Free Pops, for real.
Na-Kel Smith, no relation to Will, no relation to Mr. and Mrs., no relation to Jaden. But Free Pops for real. It's a short little EP of an album, 7 songs, 22 minutes. Na-Kel Smith is a professional skateboarder, movie star, and rapper face human being. One of the things that we like to do when we haven't spoken about an artist before is talk about how we're familiar with them. Jet, how do you know Na-Kel?
I don't.
Oh, yeah?
I'd heard that he was a skater. Somebody had mentioned it. Maybe you mentioned it to me when you said we were going to do this. Not familiar with him at all. Not familiar with him as an actor.
Okay.
Or none of that. No,
well,
first time.
You heard him on Sick, Earl's album.
Yeah, he was on the Earl.
Featured on that.
He's on the Earl.
I think he's got a few features with Earl, but he was on the movie produced by Jonah Hill, mid-90s.
Okay.
He was a black skateboarder kid in that.
Okay, I didn't see it. They promoted it really hard out here, actually.
Did they?
Yeah. Anytime you go to like Village Vanguard or something, you would see the mid-90s like poster and stuff like that.
It's an alright film, man. It's like a good coming-of-age tale of like a hip-hop skateboard lifestyle for a kid coming into age. Yeah, it was good. I appreciate it. Reminded me a lot of my youth. Also, it had like Dell in there and shit. So, yeah, shout out to Na-Kel Smith, man. That's how I got into him. And to be honest with you, I've listened to a few of his other projects. He's got quite a few in his back catalog. Race Car Stuntman 222, Skullface Bonehead, A Dream No Longer Deferred, 3000 Noctine, 2000 Noctine. And I've listened to most of those, but I wasn't really, none of it was catching me. Okay. And this album is actually the first time that I ever been like, okay, like I'm feeling this a little bit more than the other projects.
Word.
But yeah. You want to get right into the album then?
Yeah. Let's get into it.
I didn't want to come across as saying like, oh, like start the shit off being like, yeah, I don't like any of his other work, but it was like when a lot of times when we review albums on here, I take into consideration kind of like what Spade or what Jet's going to think about it, and I don't want to ever step into an album where all of us are just like, yeah, this is kind of trash. You know, he is an independent underground artist, and it's like if all we have is bad shit to say about it, I'd rather not do it. And I didn't have anything positive to say about his last albums, so we didn't do it, and I didn't offer him up. But yeah, this one, I'll say about his music, like he's not much of a conventional wordsmith or anything. No, this is very youthful kind of music. It's very vibey. A lot of the topics and things you're talking about is like people trying to kill him, having ops, maybe getting hoes, being cool. Yeah. It's very youthful. And for the album title itself, like Free Pops for real, he's got like a little spot on there where his dad is he's talking to his dad who's seems to be incarcerated on a track. And to be honest with you, like most of these songs didn't really hit for me, but there is one song on here that I think will probably end up being like one of my favorite songs of the year. Like I listen to it a lot. It's one of those joints where it's like, you know how like sometimes a beat just captures you. It's not like it's magic or anything, but that just kind of catches you. Love Yourself, man, I fucking like that. That's the one that he has his dad on and shit. Like he rocks really well over the beat. Not necessarily saying anything too deep or introspective to much of a degree, but it's cool. Like I fuck with it.
Yeah, that track's cool also. Like on first listen, I was kind of like, what the fuck is this? Because the track is long, right? It must be like a third of the record. It's like 6 minutes, something like that, right? It's a long track. And most of it is just, I have a phone call. We're going to decline that.
Okay.
Yeah, but the actual, fuck man, this phone call really threw me off.
You were talking about
on second, third listen, like there's almost like a psychedelic element to this track. You know, I mean, the fact it goes on for so long and he kind of stops rapping after a while. You have like the phone call, and it just kind of rides out. It has this kind of texture to it that really, really works quite in an interesting way. It's almost like stonerish, I would say.
A lot of this stuff is kind of stonerish, kind of party vibe-ish, kind of like skater type of
For
shit.
sure.
I can hear a lot of this in skate videos and stuff like that. But yeah, that track in particular I really like. You know, his dad is apparently God Body 5%er. I've had so many things to say about 5%ers in music and whatnot, and it's always surprising to me when you have a person that kind of comes from this black radical lineage of, you know, these powerful black politics, when a lot of that doesn't actually translate into the music other more than like an aesthetic to be said. Like the ST-Knack album, he's just like 5%er line thing here, but there's nothing else of really relevance to it.
Right.
It still kind of functions. It functions like it's supposed to be an esoteric knowledge in society, but much of the information is already out with a lot of things, and they never really build on it. And I when I heard that, it endeared me a little bit more to Na-Kel Smith, even when I found out his middle name is Allah, because working with Earl, who I think comes from, I mean, like, you know, his family history and kind of the things he writes about, they're often deep, introspective and such. And I was like, man, I really hope that having these people around Na-Kel Smith kind of pushes his music and more towards this I don't know, more serious content. Yeah. And of all his albums, like, still hasn't got there for me. And I feel like I'm too, I don't want to say I'm too old to listen to this shit, but he's like 27 or some shit now, right? He's got to be like in a mid-20s, so it's not like he himself is a 15-year-old. It just feels like this music is kind of built for 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, maybe a 20-year-old or 21 that can drink or party, but it's really youthful, and it doesn't necessarily stick with me a lot on this album.
I mean, there's definitely some moments I really like on this record. Like Dislike, I actually liked a lot. I really like the beat on that track. I think it's, you know, the chord sequence on there is really nice, and it has like a nice texture to it. The whole album has like an interesting, so Na-Kel has this kind of vocal fry when he's talking, and then there's this kind of almost buzzing sound underneath like all of the production that adds this kind of like an edge to it that's maybe not quite.
It's kind of like punky, like
exactly.
Like
it's punky. It's got that crunch
dirty,
to it.
Like fuck it,
and you know, it fits perfectly for like a skater kid in that sense. And like Dislike, especially, you know, he's not really saying much on there.
He puts like a vocal effect on his voice.
He's got a vocal effect on it, and it's, you know, I kind of dug how it kind of plays off of itself in an interesting way. You know, this whole dichotomy of like and dislike, and you know, kind of the loadedness of that word in the social media era also is quite, you know, cool. I don't know if he's saying anything particularly interesting on there. Like, nothing really leapt out at me, but also I think this album is at its best when it is being a bit more personal. And I enjoy that kind of earnestness from him, where in which it's like, you know, there's the sense of being liked and disliked, but also the very genuine kind of anguish.
I wish I could buy my granny back. I wish I could bring my homies
this sense
back,
of loss that kind of permeates the whole record. You know, when he's talking about his pops, like it's very, you know, genuinely kind of touching in places.
I really did like that kind of conversation with them. It you know, his dad is I have no idea what his dad is locked up for or anything like that, but you hear the love that the dad has for him, and it's very much one of those moments that we don't really see from a lot of black fathers. You know, his dad's like, yo, I love you, you know, like they're like writing rhymes together. They talk about the album cover, which he's like, yeah, should I use the picture? And he's like, yeah, I'll use the picture. And you know, there are a lot of little explosions of that kind of personal aspect of his lyrics, but they're often kind of hindered or pushed back by the overwhelming amount of him talking about people want to kill him. He's got ops, he's got haters, and I don't know like what type of lifestyle he's living. It makes me feel like, damn, like you're like a skater, right? You're a professional skater. You're fairly famous for making music. You were in one of the biggest movies of the year when it dropped, and one that'll be remembered for decades to come. And it's just like, who is trying to kill you? You know, and that's what kind of takes me out of it. It feels a little bit, and maybe he does have those type of things, but for me, it's like Jaden Smith talking about his haters to me in a way. It's just like, I have had opposition growing up, you know what I mean? Like growing up when we was younger, we was doing all types of shit, you know, fighting, there's shooting at people, is being shot at. There's lots of dead homies and dumb shit that happen, incarcerated homies. But like the things on my mind, though, while I have a lot of like issues and remember homies, like I was never this much pronounced into talking about how many haters I have. It just doesn't speak to me, and I feel like maybe that's more of a youth thing. Like somehow every single person online is like, yo, shout out to my haters, I got haters. It's like, bro, you got 10 followers on Twitter, like what is the deal here? And that's where it kind of gets away from me.
It almost feels like a filler phrase at this point when people talk about their ops. It's like saying you're balling. You don't have hops. Like, you don't have to play basketball. You don't have money. Like, it's just something you say.
And I feel like a lot of those things are kind of the worst aspects of hip hop culture. The glorification of reacting with violence. I'll lay a op down. You know what I mean? Like the kind of the very much concern about people when you're like, there's not any real shit about his community, like, or him uplifting his community as much as he's talking about people that surround him are fucking, these negative people. And like everybody's free to make music like that, and people's experience can come through any way they want. But I just can't help to feel like this is a little bit popular.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like this is a little bit popular discourse, and I would like to see him grow a bit, man. But musically, this is, of all his other albums, this is the one that I feel like, okay, I like quite a few songs on this. If I listen to it as like music to kind of listen to and not really think about what he has to say in a vibey kind of sense. Love Yourself, great. Free Pops, dope. New Problems, like it. Like Dislike, I like it. Ollie Pop with that slow kind of churning beat with the slow flow. Some of the things he says on that are dope. And even the vocal effects on Last Call is really cool.
I like the way the beat changes at the end of Last Call as well. Because they pitch this sample like way down. It's kind of noisy and like lacks melody, and then slowly the melody from the original sample starts to come in, and it's like very pretty at the end. Ends the album on like an interesting note. And I do appreciate that there was clearly quite a bit of thought put into the sequencing and the arrangement of the record.
You know what this album really does remind me of, and what I think a lot of people who are fans of this will enjoy. They will enjoy this album. It reminds me of early Odd Future type of shit.
Yeah.
It seems like
it's skate, it's punk.
Yeah, it's he's obviously kind of that same lifestyle and community, this kind of West Coast, black kid in skate culture, doing drugs, hanging out, fighting, maybe breaking your skateboard over, you know what I mean? Like all that shit. And it does remind me of that. And obviously he's pretty influenced by that. And as much as I love early Odd Future stuff and stuff, like I even did look at it back then as like, this is punk, this is dope, but a lot of these type of themes don't necessarily speak to me. I'm 40 years old now, so when Odd Future came out, I was probably as old as Na-Kel is right now. You know what I mean? So yeah. But I don't know what it is. Like some artists, I have this idea in my head of them as being very young because of the themes they talk about, and the things that they're trying to get over, and that's all on me. It's not on Na-Kel. He can do whatever he wants, but yeah, this is a very immature album in a lot of ways for me. I don't need shit to be mature, but
I feel that.
Yeah, we're about to review the Z-Looper shit, and it's like I really fucking love that shit. But shout out to Na-Kel Smith, man. I like that he's doing it himself. I like that he's trying to push boundaries with his art. His albums do not sound all the same. Some of them are incredibly harsh, like and difficult to listen to. And I think that this is one of, for me, in my personal taste, this is one of the more interesting approaches he has. And I hope that he starts, looking more into that black radical tradition, also putting those type of things in his art, because I think that his popularity and his experience probably will have a lot of things to say to the youth. Like my nephew's son is 15.
Right.
And he skates. He's a black kid in California that skates. And I would like if he could look to a person that was like doing it as successful as Na-Kel and get something more out of it than these kind of simple things.
For sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's an emotional resonance there for people who can relate to this kind of music more than we can. I'm probably a similar age to Na-Kel, but I'm from Europe. Like I don't have the same kind of background as him. certainly, you know, I'm not an actor or a celebrity in any fashion. That's kind of on me for not doing any research on who he was, because like listening to the record, I was like, oh man, this guy's got it rough. Like, you know, I didn't realize at the time that, you know, this is like some skater kid, like a pro skater who, you know, his father's incarcerated. So I mean, obviously that tells you something about, you know, the nature of his upbringing, and I do think he comes across as most genuine and authentic and interesting when he's being like earnest about that, because he doesn't owe us that, you know. Like a lot of people, I know a lot of people whose dads are in jail or dead, right? And
I've got family members
exactly,
you know, in jail
so
right
it's like
now.
That's something that, you know, is also resonant and something that I think we can understand very well. But I do also like that element of him. In terms of the Odd Future comparison, I mean, I definitely am inclined to agree with you, because I'm about this. I think I'm right down in the middle of Tyler and Earl when it comes to age. I think Tyler's like 33 or something. Earl's like 28, 29. Sure. So he's like a couple years younger than me. Tyler's a couple years older than me. And, you know, when Odd Future first came around, I was like 17, 18 years old, and I was like really into it. You know, kill people, burn shit, fuck school, all that corny shit. At the time, that shit like really hit. So maybe, you know, I'm just not in that place in my life for this kind of record to really work for me.
Yeah. Are we, or maybe me more specifically, am I one of his ops now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is this all hate? Is it like, yo, you should have done it different. You should have been smarter. Fucking, nah. I
hope not, because I do think this record is dope, like at what it sets out to do. And I'll always ride for like slightly weirder, more stonerish stuff like that. I guess I'm not like completely taken with Na-Kel the character in the way that I am with like a Z Loopers or a Tyler the Creator, where it's like they're a very, very defined figure. You know, Na-Kel, like, okay, he's a guy who has ops. I get it. You know, he gets bitches. Like, cool, me too. But yeah, all in all, I do feel like leaning positive towards this record. Like, I think there is probably a really, really great Na-Kel Smith record out there for me. You know, I mean, he doesn't owe me shit. He doesn't have to make music for me, but I definitely think, you know, if 5 years from now he releases an album that I absolutely love, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
You should check out the Skullface Bonehead shit. It's kind of,
I was gonna say, these album titles are fucking hard. I do like the titles.
Check that one out. I think it's kind of crunchy and it's kind of dope. I just didn't want to review that one with Spade.
Okay, I feel that.
But Na-Kel Smith, man, shout out. One of these songs is probably going to be in my top 10 songs of the year, if not top 5. I really fucking like that one. Like, must have played it like 50 times already.
Okay, well,
because I mean, I just you know me, I'll put a song on loop and just
you want to run it?
I'll play a bit of it,
a little sample of it.
Yeah, because you know we get the copyright strikes, and I just have to not care about it.
We're not making any money off this. We're coming up to 1,000 subs.
We are getting there. And you know, we got some really dope people in the back supporting us. Shout out to all the Patreons. And we've got like 10 patrons right now, which is not tremendously significant. But when I look at like a Fantano video and the end of his, it ain't like he got 1,000 patrons. You know what I mean?
No, for
like,
sure.
Hey, yeah. But yeah, I fuck with this. It's one of those things where it's just like something about that loop.
The loop almost reminds me of being in like you're in like whenever you've like traveled or you're like somewhere very far from home and you're sitting in like a cafe or a bar or something. It's very hot outside and you're kind of just sat there waiting for things to progress. Like there's a bit of stasis to it, but it has that kind of I don't know, that warmth to it. I kind of like.
Another thing that kind of gets me too is like, as people know, I was mega because I was God body, and my father is, you know, a black radical as well, and my dad used to say he cruising for a bruising. You know what I mean? And Na-Kel says that shit on here, and something about it just hits right for me. His voice, the beat, his dad at the end is like the dad at the end is not even a thing that bothers me about the track. Like I let it rock all the way through. It's almost like a verse. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times you have a song that has an intro. You like, all right, the rapping's done. Now I gotta hear this shit. Let me run it back if I want to hear it again. But this, I just let it run all the way through. I like this shit.
For sure.
See? That's what my dad will tell you. Shout out to the patrons. I've been kind of lazy with the Patreon videos at the end and kind of just stacking it over this part right here. But yeah, shout out to all of you guys. I'm going to do that. That's what's happening right now. You can see your little Patreon thing. Yeah,
Hey.
we've done it. We've done it,
What's up?
guys. Thank you guys so much.
What's up, Robobo? What's
yo.
up, Idiot Doom Spiral?
Yeah, all
Looking
of
at your
these
names
cats.
right now.
Yeah.
How you guys doing? What's up, No Name?
Secret House again.
Secret House. Thank God.
What's up to my guys?